So far, we've talked about the subconscious mind quite a bit, and we have played with the first way that we kind of rewrite the programming, pretty much our self-talk, our consistent self-talk. Did any of you have any experiences where you caught yourself thinking with one of those lower levels and then you went, oh, wait a second, I don't have to think that way,
yeah.
Did you?
Like, I noticed I do it like all the time.
Non-stop? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh,
have you not noticed that before?
I think I kind of noticed it, but I really noticed it since the last class. It was like I was catching myself constantly. Like I guess I'm a very negative self-talker.
Must be if you're on medication.
Oh my gosh.
No, is that, how many of you is that, did you discover a similar something happening for you? Where you just go, yeah, I can't believe that tape keeps running. And yours is negative? I mean, you notice that
it was more like this fear I've had and this stress I've had all semester with this particular person. And I have felt like there's nothing I can do to change their behavior because it's so ingrained in them. But I still have to associate with this person till the end of the semester.
It's not me, is it?
No, Mike, I almost went in there. Don't worry, it's not you. I was like, I need my class. I need to go talk to Mike. But and I think this this week it just kind of climaxed to the point where I felt really overwhelmed, and then doing that activity, I realized, wait a minute, I am allowing their behavior to make me feel the way I am, and so I just wrote some of the things that I asked to do as far as the positive talk, and I feel a lot more confident to just go through the rest of the semester with associating with this person.
Good. I mean, that's such a great thing to discover your thoughts and how they're running the show, and then decide you want to see a different show. Because it's like, I mean, you kind of can look at our mind as a stage, and unless we decide who we want on the players on the stage, then it'll keep playing the same reruns. That's a good metaphor.
I had an emotional reaction to something that I didn't even think would bother me, and with my self-talk, I was able to talk myself out of it the next day.
So it was emotional, and then
Like,
that because of your...
And then once I realized how I was talking to myself and how I was making it happen, I was able to actually stop that emotional reaction and get control of it.
Is that good? I mean, was that a good thing for you? Good for you. Anyone else have any? Jason, you raised your hand just for a second. Do you want to tell us about what?
Once I started looking at how I was talking to myself, I just realized that most of the time I'm pretty good, but as soon as when I would get I always seem to get a lot of homework, and then, once I do that, then everything goes good, and then I all of a sudden get more work, and as soon as I start to get stuff piled up, that's when I start to get negative. And I just kind of looked at it as it's something that I have to do and not worry about really the outcomes, just do it, rather than worry about it and be negative about it.
Good job. How many in here, and this is a really kind of a personal question, but I'm just curious, how many of you, and if you don't want to answer, feel free, but how many would say that with those 4 levels that we had the other day, and we had the 2 ineffective ways, how many of you would say that at least half of your consistent, dominant thoughts, your consistent, dominant self-talk is down there in that stuff at least half of the time? Is that right? So, the thought that comes to my mind is, we read As a Man Thinketh, and okay, so, be proactive about it. But the thought that comes to my mind is, it's not your fault. You don't have to feel bad about that. because you're just running the tapes, you're running the reruns. And it's nothing to feel, because I know a lot of people get really down on themselves. I just can't think about myself in positive ways. Well, that's because you're running the old scripts. So okay, that's okay. You're not a bad person. But the value of rewriting those, putting a new sitcom on your stage is enormously valuable, it seems to me. And so we kind of played with dominant thoughts and self-talk. Today I want to give you one that, another way that we've all heard of this before. As this is not new, but I'm going to introduce an idea along with this that I'm pretty sure is new to most of us. So every one of us, I'm certain, has heard of the word affirmation. You've heard of that term before. And if any of you remember, I think that guy who's now a senator was on Saturday Night Live. He made a mess of this. I don't know if any of you remember, where he stood in front of the mirror and he said, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and darn it, I'm worth it," or something like that. And Michael Jordan was also in the... he kind of really made light of something that I think is incredibly powerful. And I want to go through this today and show you why this is, that is so powerful. But the word affirmation, what does that word mean? Does anyone know what that word affirmation means? Do you know?
Reinforce or support.
Pretty close. Uh-huh. The word means to make firm. So yeah, kind of that idea right there. To make firm. And when we're speaking of the subconscious mind, then we are making firm a new picture or a new idea, a new us, essentially, that is running a new film on the stage. I want to go with me to this second page that has the little castle on it, and I want to read this first line together, and I want you to tell me what you think of it. I don't want you to just buy it out of hand. I want you to read it through with me and tell me what you think of this statement, because it's pretty bold. It says, consider this: affirmations are among the most powerful tools we can use for personal transformation. They are highly reliable, easy to use, and are based on impeccable logic. Okay, especially that last sentence. What do you think of that? They're highly reliable, they're easy to use, and based on impeccable logic. Now, first of all, what does that mean, the impeccable logic part? What are we talking about there? What does that mean in relation to everything we've learned up to now about subconscious mind stuff?
You feel overwhelmed ingrained in the subconscious mind. It just makes sense.
Yeah. So we talked about that list of the programming leads to attitudes, beliefs, and so on. Well, this is dealing with the programming, and if we write a new program through an affirmation, then it just works. Okay? That's the logic of it. Impeccable logic. Okay. How about easy to use? Yeah? How many in here, based on what you know, have used affirmations before? For one reason or another. A lot of us have. Right? Are they pretty easy for you? I mean, when you've used them in the past? Okay. What about the reliable part? They are highly reliable, yes?
I think if we do it right.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know. I think maybe we try to use the affirmations, but then we don't really believe it.
Yeah.
Like we have that immediate negative self-talk come right back.
Exactly. And I want to put in here an idea that perhaps, and I had never thought of this before until I came upon this information, that when you say something to yourself in the form of an affirmation, your subconscious is listening. If you say, I'm a slender, athletic, and fit person, okay, there's your affirmation. And you keep saying that over and over and over. I'm a slender, fit, and athletic person. Or I'm a slender and fit person. I'm a slender, and you keep saying that, okay. And nothing's happening. Subconscious mind's going, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? And it just runs the program, right? Well, what's the problem with that? What happens when you say, we'll use that as an example, if losing weight or getting to a right physique is what you want. I'm a slender, healthy, I'll add another one, and fit person. Okay, there's your affirmation. What's the problem with that? That is likely to be the next thought.
A lot of times my very next thought will be like, no, I'm not, or this isn't going to work, or without even trying, those thoughts come into my mind. Yeah.
Let's see, what's the other one they use on here? We say, I'm a slender and fit person, but I feel like a fat slob. That's what this page, but I feel like a fat slob. Okay? Which of those two is going to get more emotion connected with it? Because remember, the subconscious mind loves to go on those things, to work on those things where there's more emotion connected with it. If we add the emotion to it, as a man thinketh in his heart kind of thing, then it goes, oh, well, that's what she's really meaning, is that what is coming to me with some emotion. Which of those two is going to get the more emotion?
Negative.
Yeah, by far. And so we say this, but this is what we really mean. Yeah, I'm a fat slob. And there's nothing I can do about it. And every time I try something, it doesn't work. So your subconscious mind has just heard three statements that say, I'm a fat slob. Okay, or it's shoveling the coal into the fire. Or, and there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, whatever you say. Nothing I can do. And every time I try something, it doesn't work. Okay, whatever you say. That's the real affirmation. That's why on this page it says they're highly reliable, but he calls these tail enders. This is the one that gets the juice. Does that make sense to you guys? Is that an interesting idea? Man, when I understood that. So what do you do with that? Because we still want to use affirmations, and we'll explore how exactly that's done, but what do you do with that? You're not going to want to hear my answer. This is a belief, and this is a belief. You're just making both of them up. I'm a healthy person. Okay, that's a good belief. I feel like a fat slob. That's a belief that you're making up too. Remember, with any belief that we have, that's another one of those trees that are sitting in your forest of being overweight. or whatever addiction or show you're running. If it's a tree that's sitting there in your way, it's a tappable item. And I'm really not kidding in the least about that. I know I've said many times, well, tap on it, try it. But this is one of those things, if you find yourself not going in the direction that you feel like you need to go in, and you're doing everything, then these beliefs are the things, these tail enders are the ones that are getting, they're the real script that's being written. And they're tappable. You can tap on those just the same way as you would tap on a headache or fear or anything else. Nervousness, it's the same thing. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? So what you do when that comes up is, when you say, and we'll go through how to do this, but when you hear this in your head, when the next thought is, yeah, but I feel like a fat slob, then your thought, you stop that thought because you know you have control, and you say, even though I have this belief that I feel like I'm a fat slob, this belief that I'm a fat slob, this belief that I'm a fat slob, and you keep doing it until that no longer finishes the sentence, till this becomes a period instead of a comma. I'm really not kidding about that. Do you want to change? Do you want to see things happen in the direction? You've got to do something different. And EFT helps make that happen better than anything I know. And some of the other energy therapies that are out there. Questions about that? The other thing you can do with that is just when you hear that, is you just stop and go, wait a second, that's a tail ender that I don't want to say that. And you rewind. And just put the period in there. If you're not comfortable with the tapping part. Okay? But anyway, when we practice these affirmations, what we're doing is we are really beginning to replace some of these stale, worn-out movies that keep running. So I want to explore how we do this, the process for creating an affirmation, because there is kind of a process. There is a not necessarily a right way, but there are best ways for doing these, so that you start to see your subconscious moving you in a different direction. So I want to go through these kind of rules. Turn with me first of all to this third page that has the affirmations and then a 3 on it. The rules. These are going to be generalized, and then we'll get a little more detailed on this first page. So, the rules of this, first of all, it has to be something you want. Sometimes our wants are shoulds. You will recognize this if you lose enthusiasm for doing your affirmations. If so, look for a core want. So what that means is, just because somebody thinks you ought to do something, that shouldn't be reason enough for you to create an affirmation around it. It should be something that you absolutely, positively, you're passionate about it. Otherwise, you're not going to have any emotion in it. Yeah, I'd like to be 175 pounds. That'd be nice. Subconscious is going, that ain't going to happen. I don't sense that you want that a bit. So it has to be something that you would like. It has to be realistically possible. You must at least believe that it's realistically possible. So there has to be some sense of, yeah, I can do this. You know, at my age, I still would really love to be an NBA basketball player. But the possibility for that happening is is pretty much 0. I would sure love to do that. Man, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Except for this year. It would be great. All the traveling to big cities, playing in front of thousands of people, and rubbing elbows, and getting black eyes from people who are famous. That would be great. Ain't no way that'll ever happen. So I wouldn't use that as an affirmation. Not a reasonable thing for me to want. State your affirmations in first person. We'll get into this. This is really important. State your wants and not your don't wants. And we'll explore these together in this. And then the last one, be an observer and don't judge the process. So I'm going to expand on each of those with this first page. Sam.
So on the second to last one, state your wants and not your don't wants. An example would be procrastination. How would you rephrase that to be a positive? And it's easy to say, I'm not a procrastinator.
Mm-hmm.
But what would be the positive opposite?
Okay, let's use that one. That's a terrific one. That I'm sure you're the only one in here with that problem, so this will be just for you. But let's use that one and how we would create a terrific affirmation along those lines. So, first of all, going back to this first page, it says, always phrase your affirmations in the present tense, not in the future. It's important to create it as if it already exists. Now, skipping to the next one, we're going to put these two together so we can help Sam out. Always phrase affirmations in the most positive way that you can. Affirm what you do want, not what you don't want. So, if I were to say, I never procrastinate. Okay. Is that positively written or negatively written? Negatively written. And what does your subconscious mind hear? It doesn't really hear that word. It doesn't know what to do with never. Because it only knows now. And so it goes, well, I guess I do. It's like the person who says, I never eat sugar. Refined sugar. That was your problem this week?
Yeah, I was trying to do the 4 ways of thinking. I was trying to do the second one up because I didn't think I could do it.
You were doing I no longer. Okay, which is better. But if you say, I never eat sugar, you ask anyone who's been on these diets, I never eat refined carbohydrates. And then 7 in the evening, man, they're just powering it down. They can't get enough. Because they're saying, I pretty much eat sugar. That's what the subconscious mind hears. And okay, whatever you say, that's what we're going to do. I will create the activity that will match that affirmation. So how do we change this procrastination to a positively written version? And it's written in the present tense. I am timely. I'm timely, or I do things in a timely way. If that makes sense for you.
What about like I'm in control? Is that?
Okay, now that's a little more vague. I'm in control of my time. But it doesn't have to do with the act of getting things done, Stacy.
I would say I am productive. That's what I would say.
I'm productive. Okay. I use my time wisely. What did you think?
I was just going to say I am proactive and get my work done in a timely manner.
Bingo. So you're not only, listen to what's going on with that one. I'm proactive and get my work done in a timely manner. Okay, that's what that all means. So, I'm proactive. So he's not only saying, he's not only putting in a way of being. What? It would have lasted clear over to here. You don't want to watch me write stuff. He's not only putting in there a way of being, but also how he handles things. He's doing two of them at a time. Both would have that positive impact written in the present tense. So what he doesn't say is, or with any of these, you don't write it, I will do things in a timely manner. You say, I do things, because the subconscious mind doesn't understand. When you say to it, I will do things, it says, okay, but not now, I guess. So that's not something I need to work on right now.
Did you say, I always get things done early? Or
Perfect, yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah. That would be positively written in the present tense and, very believable.
Should you avoid using words, though, that are definite, like never or always, or because that doesn't leave a question.
Maybe. I don't know. If you're one who worries about failure, if failure is a thing for you, to me it doesn't matter to me when I so-called fail. I call it an outcome, not failure. And so if I say I always do it and I don't, then okay, whatever. But if you're like, I always do it and then I don't do it and you don't like that, then you're going to have a little self-efficacy, self-esteem drop. So it depends, I think. But I would tend probably to try to avoid the I always and just say, what was the rest of your sentence?
I get things done on
Yeah,
time.
there you go. I get things done on time.
Early.
Okay, that's even better. Does that fix your... Okay. So, going through these, it says, in general, the shorter and simpler the affirmation, the more effective. It should be a clear statement that conveys a strong feeling. The more feeling it conveys, the stronger impression it makes on your mind. So, like we said with these tail enders, that's the one that's got the feeling. So we want to make sure that we really can add some juice to it, some emotional juice to it, so that it will, start the engines running. But it needs to be short. So you wouldn't say, yeah, I get stuff done most of the time, but on Thursdays I give myself a day off. A little long, unnecessary. Okay. Always choose affirmations that feel totally right for you. What works for one person may not work at all for another. An affirmation should feel positive, expansive, freeing, and supportive. If it doesn't, find another one or change the words until it feels right. Of course, you may feel emotional resistance to any affirmation when you first use it, especially one that is really powerful for you and is going to make a real change in your consciousness. That is simply the ego's initial resistance to change and growth. Did you catch that? That was a lot of stuff, but If you feel resistance, call that a good thing. If it's just your, your limited conscious mind going, I don't know if I can do that. If you really want it, see, a long time ago, when I learned about this quite a few years ago, I said, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if it works. And I created for myself a few affirmations, but one of them sounds like this. I just said to myself, I'm the healthiest person I know. Now, whether that's true or not, again, it's a belief. That is a belief, just like these are beliefs. That's all these affirmations are. We're trying to instill a belief up onto the stage. And so I say to myself all the time, I'm the healthiest person I know. And in 20 years, I've gotten sick 4 times where I couldn't function in a normal way in the day. I never, ever get sick. I really don't. I can't remember the last time I was sick. And when they bring these silly immunizations around, or vaccinations, or whatever you call it, for the flu, I don't need those. And what I've found as I keep saying this to myself, and I'm really not trying to brag or anything. This is just my experiment with myself on this. That's all it is. I find myself, when I say I'm the healthiest person I know, I find myself, I still, like yesterday we made these cookies that are like this big with big old chocolate kisses in them, in the middle of them, and we probably had 15 of them. I mean, we made a whole batch, our family. And the thing is, I find that the things that I do don't have an effect on my well-being because my subconscious mind is pretty much at work here. But the other thing about it is I find myself doing things or being presented with things or going to things or, well, mostly doing things or buying things that tend to promote my health. I don't have to consciously think, okay, what am I going to do this week that's going to keep me healthy? It just happens. And I know that sounds like, you're really pushing things, Mike. I think you're really... But I wanted to see if this was a real idea before I present it to somebody else, and it seems to work. And I just keep saying that over and over and over again to myself, especially when other people around are getting the flu or whatever sickness seems to be going around.
So how difficult or how much time does it take to program this into your head? Because like you said at the beginning, like I'm a very negative self-talker. It's almost constant. And then I try doing the affirmations, and I do it for a while, and then suddenly this thought pops in my head, oh, you can't really do that. Mm-hmm. And, so, I mean, how do you get in the mode of...
Depends on how much you want it. If you really want a thing, it seems to me you wouldn't care about a time frame. You wouldn't go, well, if it's not here in 3 weeks, then I'm not going to do that anymore. I mean, I really, really want to be 100 and still be out playing racquetball. Whether that'll happen, I don't know. But I really want that, and so that's kind of a background noise that I always hear myself saying is, I'm still the healthiest person I know.
Do you use your affirmations when you meditate?
Occasionally.
I've heard that your affirmations are like 5 times stronger when you're in a meditative state.
Yeah, and what we're going to do on Wednesday and Friday probably, we'll explore that idea in an even more interesting way, where we can use our meditation to create that expansion, but I'll show you how. And that might be, I haven't heard that before, but it makes sense to me, because when you're meditating, your conscious irrational, judgmental mind is kind of moved over. So you are kind of in charge more when you're meditating. Always remember when doing affirmations that you're creating something new and fresh. You are not trying to redo or change what already exists. To do so would be to resist what is, which creates conflict and struggle. And remember that which you resist tends to persist. So we don't want to do anything where, that's where this positive, stating things in the positive. If you're a smoker, you don't say, I'm a non-smoker. That's resisting that which you are trying to change. You would say, I choose to only eat healthy things that my lungs and the rest of my body enjoy. There's your new instead of resisting what already is. Because what you resist will persist and grow. I mean, I love that metaphor of the stage. Stick a new one on there. I mean, make a new... You can do that. How cool is that? Try as much as possible to create a feeling of belief and experience that can be true. Temporarily, suspend your doubts and hesitations and put your full mental and emotional energy into them. And I think that might be where this meditation component comes in, is the doubts. They don't tend to be quite as prevalent when you're meditating. I've heard people say that the ideal times to do these kind of things, and what we're going to teach you on Wednesday and Friday, are right as you're waking up and right as you're falling asleep. That's the times when your subconscious mind is the most... well, it's the time when the conscious mind is kind of moving off to the side, kind of like the hypnotist, and you're having direct access when you're in that reverie, but just before you fall asleep. Or when you're daydreaming in a class. I mean, when you're really bored in a class, start cranking the affirmations. That would be a good thing. So I included in here some examples of affirmations, and again on the last page as well. These are just some that I have seen other people use. Some of these are some that I like. This first one, there's a really long story behind it. If you ever want to hear about this story, there's a guy who had terminal illness, and that was his affirmation, and pretty much terminal illness disappeared. You can read about it. He was quite famous. But that was the one who said, every day in every way I'm getting better and better and better. And sure enough, subconscious went, okay. Just online, type in that sentence and see where it shows up. You know, and you can just read through these and go, yeah, you know, that I can do a variation of that one. I have some friends. I have this neighbor who's enormously wealthy. He has more money. He spends like $200,000 a year on the jazz seats, box seats. I mean, he just lives up the street from me. He's just unbelievably wealthy. And I know for sure that in his head, no matter what happens, he will always have way more money than he ever needs. He's beyond circumstances. He has just, that is how he's affirmed it so strongly that it will just happen for him. I guarantee it. And I think that can happen for just about any, if we're working on things like self-esteem, if we're working on things like self-image, you know, body weight, all of these things that we struggle with, even if it's just self-talk. You know, I speak positively about myself, in positive ways about positive things. Say that a lot and watch what happens. Really just experiment with it and watch what happens. It's a really cool idea. But make it so that it's yours. Make it so that it's... And I've done this a few times over my many years of playing with this, And I find that a few of mine change. I have a few that are, every time, like every so often I'll check through it and say, okay, is this what I really want to be sticking on my stage? No, that doesn't fit anymore, and so I take it off. And then but I have about 6 or 7, and I could show you exactly where they are. I read them very frequently. Read them last night, as a matter of fact. And I don't, but the last thing that I want you to think about here, it says, be an observer and don't judge the process. What I mean by that is, when you plant the seed in the ground, you don't keep looking to see if it's growing. When you plant the seed in the ground, you let it grow. You don't, oh, let me see if we've got a, if it's sprouting yet. The instant you do that, you kill it. By just stepping back and trusting. You step back and you go, okay, it's out of my hands. I'm not going to try to make things happen, and I will move on the nudges I have that move in that direction, but I'm not going to force anything. And watch what happens. It's really a cool idea.